This is Lenny Esposito of Come Reason Ministries. And I wanted to stop and give you just a word of encouragement today as I've been thinking about all the issues that we've been dealing with the coronavirus and our social distancing and all of the challenges that that's been bringing to our lives. Now I know that we're in really new territory here for many people. We've never faced anything like this before. It can be daunting. It can be, well, scary. How are we supposed to approach these kinds of ideas? How are we as Christians supposed to think, supposed to react? Well, first and foremost, we should not lose heart. We should know that God is still there on his throne and he is controlling the situation. Now, that may not seem to make a lot of sense to folks right now, especially people who are having a very difficult time. But let's face it, we've had it pretty good for quite a while. And it would be inappropriate for us to think that we are somehow immune to some of the trials and the tribulations that most of humanity has experienced throughout most of its history. In fact, the thing that's truly odd is how long we've gone without anything that was a significant threat to our existence in the past. I mean, let's face it, being a Christian in 21st century America has been, well, a pretty easy thing to do for the most part, right? You can go to church, you can get your cappuccino there, you can socialize with friends, have large gatherings, host Bible studies without worrying that the police state was going to come in and take the leader off to jail. You didn't have to worry about losing your job or worse, being imprisoned or even put to death because of those kinds of things. It's been easy in the past to be a Christian. Matter of fact, it's been comfortable. And maybe that's part of the problem is we've become a little too comfortable in our faith. Now, I appreciate and recognize the blessings that God has given us in this nation. And I don't want to take those for granted at all. But I do worry that sometimes when Christians get a little too comfortable in this world, they're not necessarily prepared for the challenges that lead us to grow into the mature Christians we need to be for the next. Let me give you an example. Have you ever gone through what I call the Job cascade? This is a situation where I've been in before. Say you're going along just fine and you hit a difficult situation. Perhaps a friend has an issue or your job may be threatened. You have a relative who's ill or something to that effect. And you seek the Lord in prayer. You pray deeply about this concerning problem. And then things get worse. Just like Job in the biblical book, he was blameless before God. He prayed and his situation became even more dire in chapter 2 than it did in chapter 1. The problem in the Job cascade is a lot of Christians that I've met, it's at that point where they really start to think about whether the things that they've been saying they believe all these years are actually true. They start to ask questions like, well, wow, my prayers aren't being answered. Maybe there is no God hearing my prayers. Maybe they're really bouncing off the ceiling. Maybe all this stuff I've heard about Jesus isn't true and the atheists may be right. What should I make of all these things? Let me tell you, Christian, you don't have to doubt that God is there. I went through an experience kind of like this with the birth of our third child. I remember my wife woke me up early in the morning. We drove to the hospital, very excited, of course, that our child was going to come into the world. And checked her in, and it turned out everything just flipped and became upside down. And she wasn't actually experiencing labor pains that morning, we found out. What was happening was her liver was shutting down. Her blood pressure was through the roof, and she was basically hours away from dying. It rocked me. I didn't expect anything like this. As the doctors whisked her away to do an emergency C-section that took even less than 2 minutes, I was just stunned. And so I began praying. And after 2 hours of sitting in a darkened LDR room, not knowing what the fate was going to be of my wife or my child, those thoughts flashed before my mind as well. But I remember as immediately as they came, I also thought, well, wait a minute. I can't doubt that God exists because I've looked into it. See, I took the time to study and look at the best arguments against God's existence by some of the top atheists out there right now, and I found them wanting. And I couldn't doubt that Jesus rose from the dead because, again, I had looked into it. I had studied. When I wasn't emotionally vulnerable, I looked into these things and I had confidence. I didn't just believe that there was a God or believe that Jesus rose from the dead. I believed it because I knew it was true. There was evidence for my faith. And I think that's the key. You see, the Christian faith is built on hope. It's not built on hope in this world. No, it's not the comforts of this world that we should even be seeking. It is the comforts of the arms of our loving Father who carry us through the trials and tribulations of this world. Which is why Jesus said that we will have tribulation in this world, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And that's what I want you to hold on to today. C.S. Lewis was a pretty astute observer of the human condition. And I think he got it right when he said, God often whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks to us in our conscience, but he shouts in our pains. And it's usually during these difficult times that we need to respond to God's call by drawing closer to him and trusting him with all that he can be doing for us. We know that God is a good God and he gives us good gifts. He gave his only son, as Romans 8:32 tells us. How would he not with him give us all things that provide an ultimate benefit? So you may not see God's goodness. You may not feel it now, but you should never order your belief based on your feelings. No, instead you should order your feelings based on knowing that God is really there and he's really caring for you. I pray that you'll be encouraged by this video right now. And if you're doubting or questioning, I want to challenge you to look at the evidence. See that God is real. See that Jesus really did conquer death. It's upon that the Christian hope rests. And I hope you will rest as well. May your family be blessed and may you stay safe during this dire time. Thank you for watching this Come Reason video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like these, consider subscribing to our Come Reason YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button. And you can follow us on social media. Lastly, if you'd like to help keep these kinds of videos free, consider providing a donation by clicking on the donation button beside me. Thank you.